Chapter 16, The Temptation of Sloth. Section 1, Opening, the Wisdom Frequency. Welcome back to the Wisdom Lab on NovaLogos Audio English. We've been discussing the joy of growth and the pursuit of lifelong learning. But every garden has its weeds, and for the soul, one of the most persistent weeds is stagnation. Today, we confront a quiet but deadly obstacle to our potential. Chapter 16, The Temptation of Sloth. In our hyper-connected world, we often confuse busyness with productivity. We assume that because we are scrolling, clicking, and reacting, we are not being lazy. But wisdom suggests that sloth isn't just sitting on a couch. It is the spiritual and mental refusal to engage with what truly matters. It is a leakage of the soul's energy. Sloth is the rust of the heart that makes us drift through life instead of steering through it. It is the temptation to choose the path of least resistance until we lose the gift of time. Our foundational principle for this chapter comes from the book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 15. Slothfulness casts into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. Notice the metaphor of deep sleep. Sloth is a form of unconsciousness. It's living on autopilot, unaware of the opportunities and responsibilities passing us by. Today, we will discuss how to wake up, managing the gift of time by distinguishing between meaningful commitment and busy noise. Section 2, The Verses, Wisdom in Multi-Angles. To overcome sloth, we must understand the urgency of the present moment. Let's look at the instruction found in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 5, verses 15 to 16. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Wisdom calls us to be careful with how we walk. The phrase, making the best use of the time, in its original sense means redeeming or buying back the time. It implies that time is a currency that is constantly being stolen by distractions and lethargy. To the wise, every hour is a gift that must be invested, not just spent. Now, let's see the physical and spiritual consequence of inaction in the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, verse 13. The sluggard says, "There is a lion in the road. There is a lion in the streets." This is the psychological profile of sloth, the excuse. The sluggard invents imaginary dangers to justify their lack of action. They don't say, "I am lazy." They say, "It's too risky," or "The timing isn't right." Sloth masks itself as caution to avoid the discomfort of effort. Finally, consider the call to spiritual alertness in the book of Sirach, chapter 33, verse 28. Set a slave to work, and he will find rest. Leave his hands idle, and he will seek liberty. This is a deep observation on human nature. When we have a meaningful work or purpose, we actually find a deeper kind of rest, the rest of a satisfied soul. But when we are idle, our minds wander into liberty that actually becomes a prison of anxiety and restlessness. We were designed for movement and purpose. Section 3. Modern Scenarios. Wisdom in the Wild. How does sloth hide in our modern, wild, of notifications and endless choices? Scenario A. The busy procrastinator. Imagine you have a major project that requires deep thinking and focus. Instead of starting, you spend 3 hours clearing your inbox, organizing your desk, and checking the news. You feel exhausted at the end of the day, so you tell yourself you worked hard. The Wisdom Lab calls this deep sleep. You were busy, but you were idle regarding your true purpose. You used busy noise to avoid the lion in the road, the difficult task. 2. Make the best use of time. You must prioritize the work that yields fruit over the tasks that simply fill the clock. True rest comes from finishing the tower, not from rearranging the bricks. Scenario B. The passive consumer. Imagine someone who spends their evenings passively consuming content, scrolling through feeds without intention. They aren't resting, they are drifting. When they finally go to bed, they feel more tired than when they started. Wisdom suggests you look carefully how you walk. This passive consumption is a form of spiritual sloth. It's an idle heart-seeking, liberty from the stress of life, but finding only hunger for real meaning. The antidote is active commitment. Instead of just watching, engage in something, a hobby, a conversation, or a prayer that requires you to be awake. Section 4. The Wisdom Paradox. Active commitment versus meaningless busyness. Now let's explore the wisdom paradox. Rest versus laziness. The paradox is that you can be doing nothing and be wise, or you can be doing everything and be slothful. The balance point. Purpose versus motion. 1. The error of the workaholic. This person is terrified of being idle, so they fill every second with motion. They think they are the opposite of a sluggard, but because they lack a wise walk, they are actually running in circles. Their busyness is a distraction from the deep work of the soul. 2. The error of the spiritual sluggard. This person thinks rest is the goal of life. They avoid commitment because they don't want to lose their freedom. They forget that idleness leads to spiritual hunger. They are asleep in a world that needs them to be awake. The desirable path. We call this disciplined presence. You know when to work with all your might, like the ant we met in chapter 12, and you know when to rest with all your heart. You don't use busyness as an excuse to avoid growth, and you don't use rest as an excuse for sloth. You treat time as a sacred trust, realizing that making the best use of time means being fully present in the task the current season requires. Section 5. Language Masterclass. The Structure of Wisdom. Let's look at the English of alertness and time management. A. Making the best use of time. In English, this is often rendered as redeeming the time. To redeem means to buy something back from a bad situation. It implies that if we are not intentional, our time is lost to sloth. Practice saying, "I am redeeming my time by focusing on what truly matters." B. Casts into a deep sleep. The word cast suggests a sudden or forceful movement. Sloth doesn't just happen, it throws you into a state of spiritual unconsciousness. It's a vivid way to describe how quickly we can lose our focus. Circa idle. The word idle means not active or in use. In English, we say an engine is idling when it's running, but the car isn't moving. This is the perfect metaphor for sloth, consuming energy but going nowhere. Section 6. Closing. Seal the word. As we finish our 16th session in the Wisdom Lab, I want to ask you, where have you been idling? Is there a line in the road that you are using as an excuse to stay in your deep sleep? Time is the one resource you can never earn back. Don't let sloth steal it from you under the guise of comfort or busyness. Wake up. Look carefully how you walk. Commit yourself to the work that brings true rest to your soul. Remember the words of the book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 15, "Slothfulness casts into a deep sleep." It's time to wake up and move. In chapter 17, we will look at the power of moving together. We will explore the mighty power of unity and how to move beyond individual effort to the spiritual logic of being one body. If you are ready to overcome sloth and redeem your time, please like this video and subscribe to NovaLogos Audio English. Let's walk with purpose. Until next time, be diligent and walk in peace. Goodbye.